Okay, so welcome to the first webinar in our Technology Showcase series. Today we're going to be discussing how to reduce the cost of customer engagement. The session will be chaired by our very own John Greenwood. He's just obviously waved over there. We're also going to be, well, there's a few points that we'll be doing through the session. So we're going to have a number of polls, which we'll be asking for your feedback on. It'd be great if you can participate in those. There's also an opportunity to, at any point, to ask a question of the panel. We'll endeavour to get around all the questions as best we can. If we don't manage to get through all the questions, we'll come back to you after the session, just to answer that. There's also a survey at the end of the webinar. If you could give me your thoughts on how we performed today, that would be really appreciated. The discussion itself, there's no PowerPoint slides. It's an open panel discussion, and I'm hoping you're going to find it very interesting. I'm going to pass over to John today, and he's going to introduce the panel and chair the session.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panel. Nathan. Nathan is founder and is managing director of Gabba. They're an award-winning and pioneering technical chatbot marketing organization. Nathan and his team have worked with many large brands, corporate, Microsoft, Siemens, to name but a couple, and is author of the book Social Media for the Legal Sector, which is a law society publication, and is passionate about sharing knowledge and empowering people. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you very much. I get a small royalty of about 20 pence for every one of those books that's sold. Thanks for that.
Very kind. Very kind. I'd like to introduce Louis. Louis is very much an ad veteran in the marketing space, but is the driving force and fellow founder of Love Amy and with Lawrence Turner, and is really got some in-depth insight and knowledge of the world of AI and bots. AIM is a conversational AI, has taken a really different approach, which will come out hopefully during our session. And Louis is a big advocate of mentoring and also runs Realise Your Potential mentoring program. Welcome, Louis.
Thanks for the nice words.
Very kind. And last but very much not least, Natalie Calvert. Natalie helps businesses put their customers really at the heart of their organizations through superb CX, but also EX, employee experience. Is very much an advocate of the employee taking center stage in customer contact organizations. Natalie's worked and empowered and equipped more than 200,000 frontline staff over the years to deliver world-class service, and that has been around 100 plus organizations over a 25 plus year career. Natalie's also judged and has judged over the last 10 years for the UK Lloyds Bank National Business Awards for Virgin Atlantic Customer Experience. Is also a board advisor to the National Business Awards. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you, John. I was just looking at the participants that we've got here today, and I can see some familiar names. So hello out there as well.
Thank you. Let's give this session a bit of a frame to start off with. Organizations are bouncing back from COVID. We want to look at what role the conversational bot or virtual assistant is going to play supporting organizations. And we want to see this technology, is it a replacement for IVR as voice loses its place perhaps as the leading customer channel, and actually, you know, IVR is really just routing and validation for the voice channel. And are we going to see more bots take over as we use more digital channels in our customer communication? So that's sort of the frame of it, and hopefully we'll see AI as the position. So really looking at that very first question, Natalie, is the bot going to take over as automation for our most common way of communicating with customers?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? It's without doubt, the bot is going to be the biggest disruptor I think our sector has seen. And if you look back, there's going to be 3 disruptors. The first one, obviously, for all of us has been COVID. And COVID, I think, we should probably have said COVID DT, digital transformation, because that for all of us is what COVID has driven. So the traditional pyramid of contact has totally turned around, and we've kind of gone from voice, email, chat into chat, email, voice is the priority. So COVID's big for us. I mean, hybrid working is going to change our sector significantly. Not only in terms of customers, but in terms of employees. And I think hybrid, for one, has shown the massive gap in knowledge management. The traditional, we've all heard the stories, put your hand up and someone will come and help you. At home in the kitchen, there's no one to help. And so knowledge management gap around back-end processes. We're seeing rise of complaints. We're seeing, a lot of the employee well-being is down to a lot of stress that's now involved of working in isolation. So you've got COVID, you've got hybrid. And the third one has to be bots. The whole AI will just change how we're operating, not just from a customer point of view of making it easier, quicker and faster, but also from an employee experience. Years ago, we talked about, we had the fact that we had, transactions at one end and relationships and complexity at the other. And everyone went and offshore to say, let's get rid of the transactional stuff. And we could have another conversation around, was that successful? But now I think the routines, the transaction stuff, which for most organizations is about nearly 50% of the workload, that will all start to now move, and the bot will be the big disruptor around all of that. And you lay into that cost and you say, right, well, to run a piece of tech is going to cost you what, 3 to 5p a minute, £2 an hour. You've got the cost of a human being 10 times to 20 times even that. So how we use our people, how we use our technology to change everything and reimagine what we're doing in customer service is key now for us, our customers, and importantly, our organizations. So that would be my kind of starter for 10 on that, John.
Oh, well done. Good start.
Nathan,
give us a feel for your view of, are we seeing conversational automation take the role of IVR?
Yeah, I think if you want to see what's happening in business and what the future is, look how people are communicating. So if you're under 35, your primary channel of communication right now is chat. Yeah, the stats in the next 5 years, regardless of demographic or location, your primary channel is chat. When we say chat, SMS, WhatsApp, Messenger, across the board. So companies, organizations that are trying to engage without a chat strategy is going to be problematic. And it sort of reminds me of the early days, if for those of us around in, say, the early days of social media, it wasn't even called, people didn't even have a term for what that was at the time. It was sort of settled about 2006, 2007, we'll call it social media. People will call it digital 2.0. You've got to have a digital 2.0 strategy. You've got to have, and there was much argument at the time across commerce and industry around, whether you're in legal, recruitment, customer service, whatever. People saying, I don't think this is going to affect us. I'm not quite sure. I was on panels and speaking on this stuff with some, huge companies, some who represented here today. Where banks would say, this is probably never going to affect us. But right now, what we can say with bots is, of course it's going to affect us because we're all communicating through chat right now. Yeah. Some awful statistics for me. I think if you're under 17 or 18, you prefer to speak to a bot than a real person. I've got 3 teenage boys. They certainly don't want to speak to me. If I want to speak to them, if I want to communicate with them, absolutely, it's got to be through chat, probably first and foremost. Yeah. Where that leaves other channels such as email and whatever, and voice, I definitely think they're still so relevant. And I think the key term is omni-channel going forward. And we'll probably speak a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah. Just a quick stat before we move over to Louis. We've got PS fk.com as a source for this information. Up to 74% of customers prefer to use chatbots to help them find answers to simple questions.
Yeah.
Louis, your thoughts? Oh, just can't hear you, Louis.
My thoughts on 74% of customers.
Yeah, and just replacing, where is the chatbot coming? And, because we've always used IVR as that automation piece for the voice call, but we're not call centers anymore. We're contact centers, multi-channel. So where do you see the role of the bot and the conversation piece, the virtual assistant?
I always come back to something I heard like 10 years ago about how in ancient Greece, someone invented a bird and they used steam to make their wings flap up and down. And that was the first robot. And I then look at like this conversation, and I was thinking that on the weekend, I went to a 50th birthday party and I bought as a present a very expensive Bluetooth speaker. It was this big, and it was like a good old school ghetto blaster that I used to see everyone carry and everyone do. I suppose that shows my age. And inside that big box was a Bluetooth speaker, a CD player, a real radio. How about that? Check it out. But actually what that is was it was a form of automated communication that started off with the wireless from Crystal Palace. And all we're doing here is we're further automating, we're further putting bots in place, and it's a march. It's a march to make our lives easier. It's a march to give us more instant access to information. It's a march. It's a march to make it quicker to communicate. That's why the kids like to communicate that way, because what they do is they get a result instantly. That's why the adults, I had to teach my 83-year-old father a few years ago to use WhatsApp. And it was like, this is genius. I can speed everything up that I do. So when we look at those examples in the context of our business, in the context of our call centers, what we have is an inevitability of this automated chat. My question is, well, not will it happen, but what else can we do with it? And we're being approached now because we've got AstraZeneca as a client of ours, and it was automating customer contact, all that kind of stuff. But now I'm being asked by medical directors if we can do unstructured research. Because the problem with bots at the moment, most of them, is that they're fixed. It's an if, it's a then, it's a wherefore. Do I push this button? What do I do with it? And they have these very linear conversations. And if you get stuck in that linear conversation and you can't get out there because it doesn't understand, then it's a bot. I get frustrations and I get good things from it. But if you can be unstructured and have the conversation in any order, then that's really exciting, because that's what's happened in this experience. I started talking about ancient Greece in a conversation asked about today's technology. It was deliberate, it was non-linear, and that's how bots should be, and that's how they will work when they're deployed, because the technology is good.
And of course,
Louis, can I just come in there, because I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think John's question was also about IVR, and one of the failings of IVR is the fact that no one's listened to the customer really in that journey. So everybody has an automatic now pushback on IVR out in our sector. Nobody likes it. Everyone says, oh my God, I've got to press a button. I'm not getting what I want. There's lots of layers here. And I do think that we're on a tipping point here where bots are generally being badly deployed as a consumer within organizations, where the consumer is pushing back and then giving the employee a harder time because of bad deployment. So I don't think it's about what technology is going to change. I think it's about the technologists coming into customer management as an entity, understanding it from a customer perspective, and also, dare I use that word, marketing perspective, to really ensure that we deliver the right things for our customers and employees. If we just leave it out with the tech guys, love you all dearly, couldn't live without you, what a nightmare for the rest of us. So as long as it's embraced across the organization, we're in a good space for the customer.
John said at the beginning that I come from an advertising background.
Absolutely.
So,
that's your get out of jail free card.
I'm going to come back to an IVR. And we do a lot of work on linguistics. I have a whole linguistics team. I agree with you. I mean, that's why we displaced, IBM at the BBC. That's why we displaced Nuance and Marks and Spencer's, because what we do is we have conversations. And I agree with you, IVR is really frustrating. I didn't talk about it because I don't really know that much about call centers. All I know is that our customers go after 8 or 9 minutes of a conversation. Is this a bot I'm talking to? And at that point, if they're still, we haven't solved their problem. It's got to tell a story. That's how we set it up.
Yeah.
What's the story?
You've taken a different approach, though, Louis, haven't you? You've looked at this technology not as something linear on automating processes, let's say line by line, which I think, Nathan, you've seen a lot of organizations take that route and help them in the route. Yeah. Louis, you've come at it a different way and say, let the machine read the page. Let me take knowledge in its holistic way and position that to the customer. And if we could have done that with IVR 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have had all the issues that we have with customer service that Natalie's highlighted about, dissatisfied customers making it a hard time for the agent. I guess my question is whether we're looking at this in a linear or holistic way. What potential has this technology got to actually automate, and what evidence have we seen out there so far? So for our audience out there, what evidence can we present of this technology really making life easier for the customer and to an extent easier for the agent?
I just say 2 lines. Last night, one of our new clients, which is the British Army Recruitment, told us we'd automated the chat by 93% in the first month.
Wow.
It's impressive.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I think there's lots of really good examples now emerging. You've got Taco Bell, for example, that are using a bot to take all of the orders for their restaurants, for their service and their food. You've got, Superfish, the piece of language AI that is now teaching over 500,000 students in China how to speak English. And where they test it against a peer group of people that have been taught in the classroom English in the normal way, those taught by the bot are performing much better. And then you've got other organizations. Ticketmaster is now using a bot to help its customers make its decisions around whether I'm going to go to the theatre or what play I'm going to see. Shell used a bot to automate brilliantly, I think, 3 million different product lines and to provide solutions to customers. So they really put the bot at the heart of their knowledge management, and that supports not only their customers, but also their internal employees. And their help desk as a result has significantly reduced in size by 90%. So I think there are some very good examples emerging as long as we look for the best practice.
I'm going to pick up on the internal knowledge base bit and come back to Louis. But first, Nathan, give us some examples of where automation's really made a difference.
I think recruitment, we've done some really interesting projects around recruitment. We probably all know there's issues right now, isn't there? Not least with the petrol shortage and whatever. I'm working with several large recruitment companies, mainly blue collar. They're some of the biggest sort of recruiters in the UK. The way the recruitment process is done at the moment is people go to job boards, they click on a job, someone rings them up, someone sends them a form on email, they have to write it out and they send it back to them. And then ultimately there's a team of people in offices ringing these people back up, asking them to fill more stuff out and bank details and whatever. A lot of people are just on buses or on bikes or are busy and want to use chat, and the whole thing can just be done through chat and automated. And you've always got to see, well, where's it adding value? And it's adding value for the candidate. And there are so many examples of that. If you can sort of really solve that problem for people, to get answers faster, to make things faster for them, you've really got something. You've really got something.
Speed's key. Louis, you've been doing some work with a high street brand, a large retailer, on knowledge management and supporting the frontline staff. What can you tell us about that? Because I know that's a project that you're going to launch.
I can't quote it, but 3 weeks in, they're still using it and plan to use it a bit more, which was the first test.
Yeah.
I can tell you what we did. We took all the knowledge management data and we put it actually into a site, because the SharePoint was a nightmare to work with. And we let the product read it by itself and give answers with no structure whatsoever around it. You know, where is my customer's got a problem with DPD or whatever. And we had the theory that if we gave an answer to that, then we would offer them answers or a link to the page, depending on whether they wanted to take like a chatbot style interaction or this, that, and the other. It works really nicely. They really like it. They find it surprising that it comes up with it. It's not perfect. This is not perfect. We've never deployed our technology in the raw before with no structure around the reading. So they get the right answers, they get the right information, they find it useful, and we put a search bar at the top of the site as well as the chat on the right. At first they use the search bar more. 3 weeks in, they're using the chat more. So it gives them, they're very pleased with it, and we're excited. We've got stuff we want to add functionally, but we're all excited. I'm talking to another major retailer on the back of it about deploying it. You asked another question about everywhere where this technology is going to be used.
Yeah.
And I had a really interesting conversation with someone who's going to invest quite a lot of money in us yesterday. Everywhere you hit a keyboard, that's where this technology is going to be used, everywhere, because there's value to be added. But there's no value to be added in what I call command and control. So command and control is Siri. Command and control is all they can really do is select something, pick something, even Alexa. They're very simplistic technologies. The technology that would really automate is technology that's a brain where Siri is our customer. So that our brain, our ability to find information from a mass of information, if I could be so self-indulgent as to like talk about CVs for a second, because that came up a second ago.
Yeah.
We did something really cool in our lab where we try stuff, and we put in 20 CVs there for Amy to read, just 20 CVs, and we did it so that the conversation was loose. And then we asked, I'm looking for undergraduates at this point, and Amy pulled out 3 or 4 without being told of the data set. So what she was able to do was she was able to read the information and apply what's it called when the kids do it? Verbal reasoning skills, which is what we try to build, to that in information she knew nothing about. She just knew that a degree was a degree, and she knew that a master's was a master's in some mathematical way because it's just maths. And she was able to pull out information that's useful. And those products that can do that are going to win because they've always won, like the wireless, like all those other examples that I use. Now, I don't see this as anything different where we're at.
So we've really got to step out of the box. But just to get back to the past a little bit, what do we think are the lessons learned? Because we've all experienced poor IVR, poor customer experience, and to your point earlier, Natalie, probably been a bit short with the customer service agent once we've got through that minefield of pressing different buttons and going around in circles very often. What are the big lessons that we should learn from our 20, 30 years with IVR to actually structure or point unstructured applications towards processes? What are the lessons learned, do you think, from a CX angle?
Who are you directing that to, John?
Sorry, Natalie. I'm looking at I'm sort of confused because I'm looking at
sorry, we're all looking at different angles. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So that's for you, Natalie, from a CX.
I think when I look back, we never learn the lessons as we go along is the first thing, and then we just replicate the mistakes. So what were the key mistakes? The measurements were really wrong, and they still are in many instances. We're still driven by productive, efficient KPIs and all of the traditional call handling metric. So the measures were wrong. I think also in that journey, the whole approach was wrong. I don't think at any point we became children and we said, let's play. Let's just reimagine. Let's just cast this out. And I was recently at the Business Awards, and we had some really amazing scale-up organizations. And when you look where they were so successful and had really taken a leap, they just ignored all the rules. They ignored the bureaucracy, and they said, right, if this is our future, if this is what we want to do, what is it that we should create to get there? And I think there is some really cool stuff that's coming through that organizations need to be open to, get rid of some of the barriers That's the next thing there, the second thing there. And the third thing is, and I have no vested interest in this whatsoever, but I think we need to listen to our suppliers more. And I think that especially the tech suppliers, where they've got the expertise. So if you've got an in-house operation and you want it to get better, you've got to bring together the experts. It's, you know, if you think about it, most in-house organizations are headed up by one person that's supposed to know everything, and it's just not possible. So therefore, getting a group of people around where you can reimagine what's going on and how you could better service your customers. I think if we'd have done that with IVR, because a lot of the tech was available then where IVR could have been better deployed, and it was all DTMF and, you know, voice activated stuff that could have been the dial tone multi-frequency stuff when you just press the numbers. And I just think it's that whole reimagination piece and create an environment where you can dream and you can be kids and you can play for a while, and then from that reimagine what customer service is all about. This is this tipping point I think we're on right now.
No, interesting. Are you finding that open approach, Nathan, or are clients coming to you with very clear ideas of what they want to automate? Are they being open-minded enough about what the potential is for these types of technologies?
Well, clients that have had poor experiences with IVR, I think you can probably read any poll or data about IVR for the last umpteen years, and the two sort of things that jump out are irrelevant options and number one, and I want to speak to a live person, number two. They tend to be the two main reasons why people are unhappy with it. Bots tend to be really good at being able to fix both of those things. That's number one. But clients come with a relatively open mind that we work with. They come with more of a sort of top level idea of this is what we want to achieve, and we have to achieve it through good bot design. I think something that I hear a lot because I work in this industry is people say, I can't stand what you do, Nathan. And I always ask for a good example. I heard one yesterday. Someone said, I've just booked, I've used a bot to book something to go to New York. And it said, where do you want to say, Chelsea or Soho? It said Chelsea. Do you want corporate or boutique? Or I want corporate. Do you want hot tub or jacuzzi? Oh, and he was going through all these options, and this is great. It's going to give me something really fantastic or whatever. And then at the end, he said, thanks very much. We'll get someone to give you a call back. Yeah. So of course, hate the designer, don't hate the bot. Whoever the hell's designed that and driven someone down some cul-de-sac. And I think it's about expectations. Bots have to initially give people really good expectation. So in that example, if you would have just said, hi, I'm a bot, I can't do much, I'll take your details and we'll get someone to give you a call back with some options around New York, you'd probably be, all right, that's my option, and you'd probably live with it. But dragging people down some long passage to disappoint them, I think this is not so much around technology. I think this is around design. And I think people, it's a young industry. As far as I'm aware, it's not on the curriculum to be able to design bots much. It's not particularly well covered at university. It's something that you're cutting your teeth on in industry. Yeah, working on clients and getting good feedback, what's working and what's not working. Yeah, Natalie,
weren't we designing call flows and looking at language and use of language back in the last century?
Yes, I fear so. But I think we have changed, though. I think we are prepared to embrace a new world that's going on. I think we just got to be able to organize ourselves internally within organizations where we can do two things at the same time. We can deliver BAU so that we can, deliver what we need to do to our customers today. But also we have to develop strategic teams that are visioning out to the future and then linking the two together. And one of the things that we are historically bad at is execution in this country, and a number of things we might say right now, but this trust in each other to execute well. And we're blaming the poor designer, and I get that, Nathan, I really do. But it's also who briefed the designer, because designers will turn around if they were sitting here saying, but we're as good as the brief we're given and the level of bandwidth. So it's about people that, we read a lot about collaboration. And for me, that's been a big change in the last few years about how we work with clients. You know, we all sit around the table together now. We all bring our ideas and create the solution. And I think that's what we've got to get, the right people around the table, and some young people around the table too. You know, I've got teenagers too, and you know, some of the ideas they have are just incredible. And we have to bring fresh lifeblood into that world and that arena to envisage the future.
I want to pick up on that point. A quick stat here. This is from Gartner, right? 2020 Chatbot Initiatives and Enterprise Strategy, right? It says by 2025, 80% of large enterprises will need to have a conversational technology focused center of excellence or skills resource. In other words, it's got to be core to the organization. And Louis, you've had some interesting projects. Do you think clients are giving this collaborative? Do you think they're getting groups together and really exploring the potential of the technology?
Our clients are definitely learning that to listen about the unstructured data and to talk about goals and objectives rather than specific, say, conversation strands or conversation options. I mean, it's partly down to us because we're more confident with what we're delivering. But the new client, Army is a great example. That was like, okay, this is a story, and they listen to us, and they bring in that level of creativity. I also think that I'm not encountering younger teams. I think one of the problems with the pandemic has been that some of the kids haven't had the last 2 or 3 years to learn to become good managers, good analysts, and good all those things, because people simply haven't employed. And I think they're seeing that gap. I mean, I've got a company full of kids. I'm the old man, you know, and I don't think, well, my children tell me I'm old, but I don't think I'm that old, but I wouldn't. So, and they definitely have this exhilarating intellect and wanting to solve these problems and create solutions for them. But it all comes down to the same old thing. It all comes down to their exposure to what technology can do for you and our clients, not what you can do with technology. And it's a huge, massive difference. Because if we throw away and we do this exercise, and I suggest you all do this, we have the odd get together now where we don't let anyone type on the keyboard. We make them all use voice to come up with the solutions, and make them use the technology that's there. And we do it, just demonstrate the limitation of the technology that's there. But again, change the environment. Don't say, apologize, Natalie, don't say disruption in the industry, disruption of the, no, now we need to disrupt our own thinking of how we approach things. Don't use, I've just changed all the email signatures. So all our email signatures with the titles you'll see from tomorrow will have 5 or 6 words about what each member of staff does for the client rather than a title. Let's disrupt everything that we do, and let's come, if it's worth it and if it gives us a better solution, and to bring it back to, give it back to the question, am I seeing customers change? Yeah, I am. But we're more confident too. There's an interesting dynamic. So our confidence allows them to change. Because I can give them data about, I won't list it, like these major UK brands, and data from there that said when they did this, we had amazing results and everyone loved it.
I think there was also some recent work that came through from Salesforce, and they looked at the difference between high-performing companies and low-performing companies, and those that were deploying or not deploying bots. And those companies that are classified by Salesforce as high-performing, 48% of them deploy bots, whereas if you look at low-performing organizations, only 26% deploy bots. So, you know, there's a message in that, isn't there? Yeah. It's kind of get smart with what you're doing, get smart with your customers, and also it will be smart for your business to make sure it really works well.
Yeah, I've got a stat that backs that up from Forrester. They're saying this is Forrester's consulting thought leadership paper from April this year, and they're saying 71% agree that scaling conversational support will allow their organization to stay competitive or make them an industry leader. So it is about opening the mind, right, to using these technologies to the fullest of its potential. But just to build on that point, you know, what is the potential, down to pounds, shillings and pence now, show me age, right? Just what's the cost saving potential of this technology? Natalie, you mentioned some stats earlier about the cost of an agent per year. What percentage do you think of the workflows, the monotony of the stuff that drags people down dealing with every day? How much can we take this away from human beings and allow our human beings to focus on the stuff they're really good at, which is the emotional engagement, real empathy-led customer engagement? What are your thoughts?
Well, all the work I've seen says that you can take between 40 and 50% of the routine work out. Okay, that is what the target should be in that area, and maybe that's phased over a period of time and years, but that's really the bulk of most contact centers. You've got a level of transactional work that you're dealing with, but that doesn't mean you're taking the same level of cost out, right? There's a big difference. So when it comes to cost coming out, you've probably got something between 15 and 20% of cost reduction that you could deliver through taking out that volume of transaction. And then you've got also to take into account very much the on cost that you're going to get on it. So you're going to have greater costs around employees. One of the things we've started to talk a little bit about is talent wars that are now happening. We're seeing it remarkably with lorry drivers, but suddenly we're going to have some, really high value contact center employees that can sell, serve, handle complaints, reduce churn, add value, all of these good things. So, the age of the super agent starts to really emerge in front of us, and therefore to keep those super agents employed meaningfully, not only do we have to give them a great employee experience, but also we have to give them the right customer interactions that keep them vibrant and alive. So I think we've got some costs that will happen, but to answer the question, you've got up to 50% of the workload at this moment. I think Louis would say, Natalie, you've probably got 90% of the workload, but just generally at this moment in time. And then you've got probably around about 15% of the cost, 20% of the cost. And it depends. I think the other area I would add in is how much you value what you're doing with your customers, because I can happily look at the cost equation, but I think one of the tricks that we really miss in our sector above anything else is looking at customer value. And what is the value of that interaction? What is the value of that process? And what value do we deliver by doing it? And if we start to think about, return on investment, the value of that experience, we start to have a new conversation and a better conversation.
Yeah. I'm mindful of time. Let's have a look at the our responses from the polls, so we can have a quick discussion about that.
Okay, we've also got a question from the audience, John. Just maybe worth us just quickly responding to that now. So the first one is, I find it frustrating when businesses try and humanize a chatbot and try to hide the fact that it's a chatbot. How should our business approach this with our consumers, and how to know the limits of a bot to not be to frustrate the customer?
Yeah, good question. I think Nathan touched on it earlier. But
Yeah,
Louis, you've had situations where people, don't understand. Louis, you want to come back to us on that one first?
The biggest problem with deploying a chat solution intelligently is that the humans don't read very well. They completely ignore what we've told them, and then they that's the biggest problem. And then that's a different challenge I won't talk about now. Each bot conversation is the same as a phone call. We keep an electronic record of that conversation, and therefore we have an obligation to disclose that in one way or another. I like it best when we deploy, so at the very top of the widget, there's a constant that says this is an electronic device or whatever it says, and that it's going to be recorded. And when we call it up, we don't use Amy, but some people use TV licensing bot or whatever it says on that website. So I think it's very much down to us to disclose they are talking to a machine. There's a flip side to that. If you make the conversation fluid and it feels like you're talking to a human, you get a better containment rate, you get a better win on your client's objective. If you go, here's a button, here's a this, here's a that, do you want the 3 examples of, I don't know, hot milk, cold milk, or oat milk? You get a degradation of success for a client. We're humans, we want human-like conversations, and that's the end of it. But damn well tell them.
Yeah. Nathan, quick comment.
Yeah. So every bot that there's not clear ethics around this, but every bot that we do, we present it as being a bot, and we try and teach people, and this is in the design, very, very fast, what a bot can do. So that's the first part. You've got to quickly teach people how to use a bot. Coming back to Louis' point, people don't read very well. So it's a challenge to present them with the options or buttons or however that UX looks. The second point is you need very, very good, this is simple design, default responses. So if a bot doesn't recognize something or can't answer something, you've got to be able to let people out very fast and present them with an option. We're about to launch a customer service bot for probably the largest one that's ever gone in a law firm. Law firm, several thousand people. They don't want it to be linked to a live person, okay? So when it can't answer something, they don't want it to present it to a live chat. They want it to be able to present them with a callback option. That's quite unusual. But I think it's quite interesting for a larger, they just don't want it. They don't want a live chat option in there. They want the ability to say, hey, you're asking for something. You're asking me, are Man United going to win tonight? I can't answer that. Here's what I can do.
Yeah.
You can call me back or you can ask another question. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just seen the results of poll 4 where our audience think that complaints is the place where they wouldn't want to do it. Where are we seeing, just a very quick answers for this, where should we be deploying this level of automation? Where in the customer engagement process should we be applying it? Quick one to you, Louis, first.
I can't answer that question. My belief is everywhere. So got to just start somewhere.
Exactly. Natalie, where we should be deploying this technology first?
Yeah, I mean, the front end makes the most sense. Just going back on what Nathan was just saying, I think we've absolutely got to humanize it. I think the problem will be if we don't humanize it, it's the other way around. But we've got to recognize, because everyone wants authenticity, that it is a bot. So totally on board with that. But I think that I'm with Louis on this one. You've got to look at this holistically across the whole piece. If you start taking processes one by one, you start to create your own silos within the silo, if there's such a thing. And that just equals problems and more repeat work and back work down the line. Look at it holistically, but then you are going to do it step by step. It's going to be the
well,
answer.
I think you've all summarized that little bit just through that last question. In our last sort of sum up, in our last minute, let me sum up. I think we're going to be able to circulate all of the poll responses to everyone, JB, afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do that. We'll share the questions and some key facts. But thank you all very much indeed. To summarize, I think the couple of key points have come out for me. One is we need to take a fresh approach. Let's learn from IVR. Let's be open-minded and look at this holistically. And I think the last point, let's look at the whole process. And let's make sure we're looking after not just our customers, but our employees. And I think this could be the dawn of the super agent, where we're really looking to value our people on the coalface.
Great.
And thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Back to you, JB.
Yes, and just also we'll be sending through a link to the video recording. So if you want to rewatch, you can do that, and obviously that'll go out to anybody who's actually not seen the session today. There'll be some material as well, supporting material, which I think you'll find interesting. So yeah, and we'll get back to you if you have any questions or would like to speak to certain panelists. Please let us know. And thank you everyone for your contributions today.
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.